Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright, people. Just quick post-fight thoughts to Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G 3. Now, I'm planning on at about 7 tonight do a little live stream for about an hour so we can talk about the aftermath. But I'll keep this post-fight review short because I have other videos that I'm thinking of doing about this, because it's more so the politics surrounding what happened with the scoring that I'm kind of perplexed at. Because would I say this fight underwhelmed? I mean, depends on how you looked at the fight, I guess. I mean, when there was talk of this fight being announced originally, excuse me, when there was talk of this fight originally being announced, I was kind of like, do I really want to see it again? You know, would have liked to have seen it again maybe in 2019, but 2022, having one fighter is 40, and it's probably slowed down a bit too much to make it what it once was. But the closer we got to it, and when I look back on his performance, Triple G's against Murata, I was kind of like, okay, maybe this could be a good fight. So I got a bit more excited for it. Now, I was tired, didn't want to do a watch along, so I said I'd watch it in the morning. Now, tried my best to keep the results secret, but the general consensus I was hearing was underwhelming. So I'm thinking, okay, let's watch this. Now, I got the scorecards because I did obviously find out the result, and I got the scorecards, and it looked to me like, okay, this is a close fight. This is going to be a really, really competitive fight. And I'm looking at it, watching it, and the angle wasn't amazing, because obviously I didn't pay for this, but I was like, Canelo's winning every round here. Certainly at the start, going into this, like the 7th, and then on, I was like, Canelo's bossing this fight. Triple G, it's like the reflexes, they're not gone, but they've slowed down. And the shots that maybe he wouldn't have been getting hit with, and the work he maybe could have been able to do, certainly in the second fight, it wasn't working in this fight. And this fight wasn't fought at a frantic pace, but Canelo was just having his way. He was doing what he wanted to do with Triple G. He was doing what he did in the second fight. He was feinting the left hooks to the body and then catching them to the head. But they were a little bit more wide this time. And for me, they probably looked a little bit easier to see. The ones he was throwing in the second fight were a lot more short and compact. And he would really do a dip up real quick. And Triple G was getting hit with them. But these ones weren't as quick as that. They were a bit wider. I was like, Triple G, man, you're going to want to get a move on. And, I watching it, and I was like, okay, against Murata, he started very slow. And I suspect that was the inactivity. But that was only in March. We're now into 6 months, for all intents and purposes. And he still looked, with this one, he just looked like he never got going. Until the last, say, 4 rounds. And in the last 4 rounds, it's not inconceivable you could give him 3 of those rounds. Certainly the 11th and 12th rounds, they were his best rounds. That was when he kind of set the tempo up a bit, started really hunting Canelo, and Canelo was able to adjust his tempo and kind of go through the gears himself in those rounds. Canelo really, he went out very aggressive in the first round. He was trying to really put it on Triple G, but I think he realised, okay, I'm not getting the stoppage on this guy. And he just, or if the stoppage comes, it comes, and he just kind of settled in, and he was controlling it very easily, and he was having I like what Canelo was doing in there, I have to say. The only thing is, though, is that late on down the stretch, happened again, people, it happened again, and bear in mind, right, this fight wasn't fought at a murderous pace. It's not like Canelo and Triple G went trading, fighting in a phone box from the first round, CompuBox was through the roof, and Triple G was just better conditioned, so in the later rounds he was able to take over. It wasn't anything like that. This fight was pretty straightforward. Canelo was doing what he wanted to do, keeping it at his tempo. Wasn't fought at a murderous pace, but he still slowed down late on in the fight. He still appeared to be blown a little bit late on in the fight. I found that very interesting. Because that, to me, Canelo, certainly when he's back down to 154 pounds, that would happen. But that would happen because the guy was a super middleweight fighting at 154 pounds. What do you expect? He's going to obviously, the amount of cutting he's doing, he's not going to be able to carry that stamina late on in the fight. You understand that? 160 and 168, the stamina seemed better. It certainly did. At 175, when he fought Kovalev, it seemed pretty good. Again, that wasn't a murderous fight in terms of tempo. But then, against Bivol, and again, a fight that wasn't really fought at a frantic pace, he appeared to gas quite badly. Now, I know he threw a lot of explosive shots, but you do wonder, why did he gas so bad? There's some people have made the claims that Canelo is... Well, they're putting two and two together in this one. One, they're saying he's gone vegan. And personally, for me, I don't agree with going vegan if you're a professional athlete. Personally, I mean, if that's what you want to do in your own time, go knock yourself out. But I think you need meat. But some people are saying it's not just the fact that he's vegan. Because he's vegan, there's no tainted meat. Now, some people are saying that because they're saying, well, he had his old tainted meat, now he's gone vegan, so there's no meat at all. What does that tell you? Look, if he's... I don't know. I don't know about that. Would I be surprised if tainted meat was something to do with his run at super middle? At the end of the day, probably not, because the super middleweight division wasn't the strongest. But in terms of that, look, I suspect the majority of boxing is on it. So, look, I'm saying that's not making it right, but you know what I mean. It's like assuming that one guy. I'd say the majority is. In terms of him, if it is just a vegan diet, personally, I think he needs to. Certainly for fighting, needs to be on real meat. White meat, red meat, etc. Because it just gives you that energy. I mean, I remember watching a documentary many years ago about Rocky Marciano. And when you look at it, Rocky Marciano, I know he was a heavyweight champion, but he was kind of probably similar weight to Canelo. Because he was only weighing in about the 180s. Now, I know he wasn't cutting any weight, and back then a lot of heavyweights were below 200. It was, you didn't have many heavyweights weighing over 200. Or if they did, it wouldn't be much. It'd be 205 or something like that. But his whole diet consisted of literally green, carbs, potatoes, and a load of meat, steak. Loads of steak. I think they said he ate like 3 pounds of steak and greens in a day. That sounds quite nice, to be fair, actually. But he never had problems with his stamina. And he trained real intensely. Now, I know different time and stuff like that, but look at the tempo. And I'm not saying that if Canelo did that, it would change anything in a sense if he'd be like Rocky Marciano in terms of work rate. No, but I definitely think his stamina would help. If he adds the meat back into the diet, it does increase red blood cells, which will help. So there's that. And I think moving forward for Canelo, if he is fighting the Bivol Zudo winner in the rematch next May, then I think he needs to change up that diet a bit. I think Canelo has the potential to beat Dimitri Bivol and Eduardo Ramirez, but that stamina could let you down. Could let you down big time. In terms of the scoring, very strange. Very strange. You have to, excuse me, you'd have to say that the Canelo Triple G trilogy has been one of the worst scored trilogies in history, if you think about it. You know, you have the first fight Triple G won, but he didn't get the decision. It was a draw, and you had a 118-110 scorecard in there for Canelo. The second fight now, I felt that Canelo did win it, personally, but I don't have an issue with someone giving it to Triple G. And two of the scorers, Steve Weisfeld and Dave Moretti, actually scored that fight, who were scoring this fight. And then we get to this one, and I might do a review of the scorecards later, but these were bizarre. I mean, two of the judges gave the first round to Triple G, which he clearly didn't win, and towards the mid rounds they just started giving Triple G a frenzy of rounds, and I was looking at this like, what were these watching? This was a clear, like, realistically you're looking at a 118-110 scorecard legitimately for Canelo, or a 117-111 at best for Triple G. So to get 115-113 twice and a 116-112, a bit of a head scratcher for me personally from the outside looking in. And again, it's another issue with boxing. It's an interesting thing. I'm going to leave it with this because I might even review those cards later in a video. Canelo Alvarez, ever since he's fought on DAZN, if you think about it, I know he has a stigma attached to him as being someone who gets favourable treatment from the judges. But if you look at all the fights he's had in DAZN, where have the judges really been favourable to him? If you think about it, where have they? You know, they were close fight. It was a close fight against Kovalev. I personally had Canelo winning, and I think one of the judges had either a draw or Kovalev winning, and Canelo very slightly. The Danny Jacobs fight, they gave that fight to Canelo pretty close. They obviously lost against Bivol. Should have been wider for Bivol, to be fair, but nevertheless he still lost. Who else was it? God almighty. Callum Smith. They gave Callum Smith. Callum Smith didn't win a round in that fight. One judge, I think, gave Callum Smith 3 rounds. You know, Billy Joe Saunders. Yeah, Canelo was winning the fight legitimately, but it wasn't like, 80 to what would it be, 72 for Canelo. It was close. I think one judge had a 75-74. So there's been a lot more. The judges haven't really been giving Canelo the rub of the green, certainly since he's been on the Zone. I mean, in the HBO days, Jesus, even the Showtime days. So it's interesting, isn't it? It's something we'll talk about later on. We'll do a live stream at 7. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on this fight. Like I said, bit underwhelming. I planned on this video being short. It's probably gone on now a bit longer, but I have a lot to say. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts. Smash the like button, people. I'll talk to you later.